We have a very special guest tonight, but I am going to walk you through a few quick slides before we get to him. Just to refresh a little bit, of course, we covered it on the YBA, but I wanted to go to a little bit more depth here because we are on to something absolutely massive here at Yoli, something that nobody's ever done before. And I think you're going to love it. You're absolutely going to love it because for decades, people have been told, eat less, move more, try harder, yet results keep getting worse and worse and worse. What if the problem isn't willpower, but it's actually biology? And so we've made a discovery and we're calling it the metabolic switch because inside of everybody's body is a metabolic switch. And when it's off, it's low energy, inflammation, stubborn fat, brain fog. But yet when you can activate it, cleaner energy, faster metabolism, sharper focus, visible, measurable vitality. So the question isn't really so much motivation, it's activation. So we're going to talk to you about activating your metabolic switch. Don't you love the new logo there? Activate your metabolic switch. Such a simple concept. One company, one test, one system, real science, real results. And of course, it all starts with the test. The test is simple, it's duplicable, it's demonstrable. And we've got over 500 people now who have activated their switch in such a short period of time. There's a ton of science behind this switch. It's driven by cellular membranes, inflammation signaling, mitochondrial efficiency, and one nutrient keeps showing up again and again in the research. And of course, we know omega-3s are essential fatty acids. There's 60,000 published studies. And of course, we also know, because we've been talking about it for over a year now, that over 90% of the people are not only deficient, but they're getting about 1/10 the amount of this essential nutrient. And so I don't know, I'm going to hope these short little clips play for you. But we've heard from Dr. William Harris, of course, the world's foremost expert in omega-3 research. But there's a lot of very popular health experts that are shouting from the rooftop all over social media about how powerful omegas are. So let me just play one of these real quick for you.
Omega-3 fatty acid levels, and we are deficient. 93% of the population is deficient in omega-3 fatty acids. 93%. So all of us should be either eating more fish or taking an omega-3 supplement like fish oil.
Here's Gary Brecka.
There are two essential fatty acids, right? EPA and DHA. Fatty acids. If you're deficient in these fatty acids, there are consequences. There is no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. If you let that settle in for a second, there is no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. They are not necessary for life. It's necessary for life. Fats and amino acids.
So if someone's listening, methylated multivitamin, an EPA that has a DHA,
either a fish oil or a plant-based oil, omega-3 fatty acid that has an EPA and the DHA fatty acid in it.
We take momentous. You like momentous?
Yeah, momentous is great.
All right. So I just wanted to show you, Dr. Amen is huge, Gary Brecka, Rhonda Patrick. Omegas are trending. And we're going to talk about what makes ours so unique. And I also took a picture. My wife buys some really good seafood from Seatopia there. And you can see that you'd have to eat a fish, really good quality salmon, every single day to get the amount of omega-3 fatty acids that you need. Of course, nobody does that. It's very expensive, even if you did. And so we have an incredible solution. And when I called this gentleman for the very first time from Spain, we did a Zoom, and I shared with Dr. Porter about what we were thinking about doing with this incredible test with Omega Quant, and his eyes lit up like Christmas. I've shared this story before, and he got so excited, like a little kid in a candy store, because here's somebody that's literally spent his life leading with science, living with purpose. There's so many credentials that I could share with you for Dr. Porter, but I took this from his website and I thought it really encapsulated who he is: leading with science, living with purpose. Dr. Porter is a pioneer in functional medicine and a lifelong advocate for optimized living. With over 20 years at the forefront of longevity science, he blends clinical expertise with a passion for helping others live fully at every age. Dr. Porter, how are you tonight? Thank you for joining us.
Doing great, Corey. Thanks. Great to be here. I think I came up with a name. Maybe we could call you Professor Fish, Fishy Professor, or something like that, right?
Well, we call Dr. Harris the Codfather.
Okay, the cod. I
So,
love it. I love it. I love
in
it.
that theme, it actually makes sense. Dr. Porter, before we kind of get into the meat of it, leading with science, living with purpose. Maybe you can elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. I think that I've been using science for my own health optimization for many, many years. It's been a while since I was doing that, but for a while I was very competitive in um, Ironman races, qualified for 5 different world championships, and was very obsessed in winning. But that journey involved trying to optimize everything that I could for my own metabolic health, my own mitochondrial health, because in doing so, you can, especially with endurance athletics, by optimizing mitochondrial health through various different mechanisms and strategies, you can really improve your VO2 max, and that helps make you that much more competitive. So that's kind of what that is referring to with some of my background and experience.
Awesome. And that's a whole other thing. I mean, you're talking about a world-class athlete here, who really obviously walks his talk. And Dr. Porter, over the years, like you treat thousands and thousands of patients annually and you test, right? That's like I remember hearing about you for the first time. Robbie was raving about you, and of course, Mike Kendall, like, oh my God, you got to go see Dr. Porter. Can you describe a little bit before we get into the switch? Like, what is your foundation when you talk about health, about how important testing is
Yeah,
in your
absolutely.
practice?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Corey. Typically, first time visit, I'm ordering quite a few different labs. I want to see various biomarkers because with that information, with those biomarkers, I can better outline strategies to optimize health. And I just need those data points in order to make the right decisions to outline the right protocols for my patients so we can assist them, facilitate them in optimizing their health. So yeah, you got to test, otherwise you're just guessing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about activating the switch. This is something that is incredibly exciting. Maybe you can share a little bit about the mitochondria and how, when they're enriched with omegas, your cells are no longer grinding the gears to make energy. So I have a little analogy there with a car, but maybe you can talk a little bit about, what happens when you activate your switch and how the threshold where that EPA and DHA are built into the membranes to noticeably shift that inflammation tone and metabolic pathways.
Absolutely, yeah. Very, very happy to talk about that because it's all about um, it's foundational, number one, and the mitochondria, as you mentioned, is really key to everything, right? And as long as we are omega-3 deficient, the cell membranes and the mitochondrial membranes, those are the outer structures, the shell of the cell and the shell of the mitochondria. Um, those membranes, in order for them to function optimally, have to be fluid, they have to be soft, they have to be flexible. And when they're not, they don't function properly. Various nutrients, hormones, amino acids, peptides, they all have to go through the membranes of the cell structure and the mitochondrial structure in order to get into the inner workings of the cell and the mitochondria. And if those membranes are stiff and inflexible, it just doesn't work. It can't work. I don't care how much exercise you do. I don't know how much optimization of sleep you do. I don't care how many peptides you're taking for this, that, and the other. If you are omega-3 deficient, you can't pass go. You just can't. It just doesn't matter. You're wasting your time and efforts and everything else that you're trying to accomplish if you don't cross that off your list first. It's that foundational. There's a reason why these are called essential fatty acids, right? They are essential.
You know, we came up with the analogy. They're like sun and water, right? You have to have them every single day in your cells, or you're not going to function optimally. Forget it. But even suboptimal performance is tough when you're not saturating
Yeah.
those cells with the omegas, right?
Easier for you to say because you're in the sun and sand and beach right now. There in Puerto Vallarta and Punta de Mita, right?
Yeah. See.
But no, that's a very good analogy. We need the sun, we need the water, we need the sand below our feet, at least once in a while, right?
Yep. So let's talk a little bit further about what happens when you activate your switch. So talk about, what that means, lower inflammation, faster metabolism, right? So what does that translate into actually the functioning of the body now if we're saturating our cells properly?
Once you get to that appropriate level, once you get your omega index to an 8 or better, it's then and only then that the membrane structure and its functionality can start to open the doors for everything else to work. I mean, you think about how we enhance mitochondrial function. There's a lot of things that go into that. Some of those are foundational, such as the right kind of diet, the right kind of exercise, the right kind of restorative sleep. But you really aren't going to get anywhere until this switch that we're calling it is made. And the switch simply can't happen until you get into those optimal ranges. Once it does happen, you can expect the functionality of the membranes, and subsequent to the membrane function, then the cells can start to function properly. Then the inner workings of the cell, the inner workings of the mitochondria can start to fire. You can start to produce ATP, the energy currency of the cell. You can start to produce that optimally. But until that happens, you're just halted, you're just thwarted, you're, excuse the expression, damned, right? You just can't, you
Yeah.
can't go forward, you can't progress.
It's interesting because Dr. Aaron Street, Kevin, Ben Stuckel, Angie, other members of our Life Science Council. I remember Aaron in Vegas and in Chicago talking about like how foundational omegas are. He's like, at the top of his, voice trying to scream like, guys, all this other stuff is cool,
Right.
but if you don't have the foundation, then all that cool stuff doesn't matter. And Dr. Harris used an analogy. It's not just letting the proper nutrients inside the cell, but isn't it also letting the waste out of the cell?
Precisely. That's critical. We don't give that enough weight. Absolutely. This is kind of a side note, but I wanted to mention something quickly because you talked about the quality of the product and whatnot. But Gary Brecka mentioned something that made me cringe a little bit. He said plant-based omegas. Not a fan, not a fan. Plant-based omegas require that we convert them to the EPA and DHA, and some of us
From
genetically
ALA.
don't do that well. Exactly, but some of us genetically don't do that well. So you really should not rely on plant-based omegas as as your source. They need to be marine-based. Now they could be from algae, but properly sourced fish is the best way to go.
Yes, I've read that. I've studied that. Now we do have the full spectrum in our capsules as well as our sachets, which does help converting the ALA to the omega 3s, which is a really interesting synergistic ingredient that we have. But as we were talking a little bit earlier today, Dr. Porter, to plan for this call, you also expressed, because I asked you, I said, hey, because you're now testing people in your practice. You've got a very large practice. You've got a lot of different partners that are also now getting ready to test. And I asked you, are you mostly promoting the capsules, which are amazing, or the sachets? And maybe you can share with everybody what your answer was and why.
Yeah, the answer was sachet. I honestly don't think that there's a better quality omega product on the market than the Vital Balance. It's just it's remarkable. We're getting those levels up faster. It's full spectrum. It's potent. The bioavailability with the
Yeah.
absorption is superb. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the sachets. It also becomes cost effective. I typically am having people load daily for the first 30 days, the first box, and then in many cases they can go to every other day for maintenance, which
Wow.
makes it much more affordable. But it's a premier product. You have a real winner with that product, no doubt.
I was chatting with my sister who's spearheading the Yoli Edge provider program, and she shared with me a new provider that just came on. There's a version of Omega that's like considered a drug. It's called Vasipa. And this particular practitioner told my sister, he goes, those sachets are more powerful than the Vasipa. I mean, he was astonished at how powerful, because the amount, like you said, of the omegas, the absorption, the full spectrum, the polyphenols, and of course, we've got how important is that liposomal vitamin D as well?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. You're getting a lot in one. It's full spectrum and it's premier. It's awesome.
It is so awesome. And now that we've added the omegas, the sachets, and you can choose the capsules soon as well, this T kit, this transformation kit has gone to the way next level, because now, in addition to the cleaner energy, the enhanced metabolism, enhanced vitality you're getting from the yes and the alkalite, the whole body alkalization, the passion, the pure, the resolve, with these omegas now able to activate that metabolic switch, whether it's in 30 days with the sachets or 60, maybe 90 days with the capsules. I mean, I know that in the Philippines, which is going like gangbusters, that combination has been incredibly remarkable. And it's just going absolutely. In fact, I'll be going to the Philippines in about a week here, because we're going so quickly. But we are so excited now that the omegas are now a part of the transformation kit. And Dr. Porter, we can't tell you how excited we are that you are going full throttle in your practice with the test, with the Omega Quant lab. We talked about a new test that we're kind of talking about. Guys, we have so much things that are exciting happening in 2026. It's unbelievable. We'll make this PowerPoint available for you. We have a new video that will be released here, I believe, on the YBA, that will outline everything we're discussing tonight. Maybe not as much detail as we can with Dr. Porter. We've got a new website coming here. All the stars are aligned for 2026. And Dr. Porter, somebody like you how long have you been practicing for now?
Oh my, let me think. Graduated medical school in 1988, so do the math. Long time.
Wow. And have you ever partnered with a company like Yoli before?
I have not.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we are super grateful that you have decided. Thank God for Mike Kendall being your patient, and then Robbie, maybe Kimmy goes to you as well. But we just feel so blessed to have you part of our Life Science Council, of course, with Dr. William Harris, and helping educate us all on the power of activating your metabolic switch. Do you have any final comments maybe to share with people tonight before we close it out? We wanted to keep this call to about 30 minutes.
No, other than just excitement. I'm very excited to be part of this. It's just focusing on foundational things like the testing and the omega-3s is really where it's at. All too often we're skipping those essential foundational steps, and with the way this is being done, with focusing on testing, focusing on the right products, focusing on first and foremost optimizing those levels, then your other products can really start to do what they're intended to do, right? So as mentioned before, this is step one. It's foundational and it's critical, and I'm excited to be part of it.
Awesome. And I love how you say that, because it's going to make all the products work even better. In fact, any supplement would you say that you're using? I mean, we've got people on here that might be listening to it on a recording that could be taking products from another company, buying something from Amazon or whatever. When you activate your switch, isn't it true that any product you're taking is going to work better, right?
Absolutely. I mean, think about what we talked about just with the stiffness, the rigidity of the membrane. When you are omega-3 deficient, those nutrients that you're spending money on aren't going to get in the cell. And as you mentioned, the waste products aren't going to get out. That's a problem, right?
Well, when you think about how much money people are spending every single month on, all these, there's a lot of great products out there, but it sounds to me like unless you activate your switch, you're not activating much of those nutrients, are you?
That's right. Activate the switch, foundational first.
Awesome. All right, Dr. Porter, thank you so much. And thank you for everybody out there in Yoli Nation. We will make this available in a recording. And we will see you next time on the first Wednesday of February on our YBA. We've got a lot of exciting announcements. Love you guys. See you there. Have a great evening, everybody. Thank you,
Thanks.
Dr. Porter.
You bet. Best health.
Take care, everybody.